lessons 2 and lessons 3, so finding sides, finding angles, and mash them into one big question. Okay, so now you have to decide which method you want to use, which isn't always easy, right? And sometimes we make mistakes, like we do second side when we want a side length or something like that. So here's 4 questions. That's how we're going to start. It says, in each case, calculate the measure of x. It doesn't say if it's going to be an angle, it doesn't say if it's going to be a side length, it just says find x. Okay, question number 1. We look at a triangle, we identify what they want us to find. They're asking for x is in this angle. The other thing I want to identify is what they've given me. They've given me 2 side lengths. So if I'm looking for an angle and I have 2 side lengths, I definitely want to use Sohcahtoa. All right, that's the best way to find this missing angle. This is just like the lesson we did this morning. So if you want to find a missing angle using Sohcahtoa, you label your triangle opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse. Once you've labeled your side, you're going to write out Sohcahtoa. There's a lot of space here. I'll do it here. Sohcahtoa. Awesome. Then I'm going to check off my S, my C, my T, and my 2 things I know. I know O and A. One of these I have 3 check marks. In our case, is TOA. That means we want to use the tangent ratio to solve this. The tangent ratio is in the word TOA, right? Tangent equals opposite over adjacent. So TOA tells you the formula. So don't forget that. To do that, I'm going to go tan angle, which I don't know, so x, equals opposite, 12.7, divided by adjacent, 5.2. That looks like 1,217. That's not, it's 12.7. I just connected the line. When you're looking for an angle is when you use your second button on your calculator. And if you're looking for a side length, you never touch that button. So for this case, we would go second tan, a little -1. And then the fraction goes inside the bracket. So 12.7 divided by 5.2. And that will tell me my angle x. When I put that in the calculator, round it to the nearest whole number. You know, got it for me? 85.5. So that'd be 86.
No.
That too big?
66, right?
68? Okay, I'm just going to check your calculator. You're probably in the wrong mode. 68? Yeah, you probably just have the wrong mode there. Okay. I'll come look at your calculator. And you end up with 68 degrees. Awesome. Look at question 2. Again, it says look for x, but this time x is a side length. It is not an angle. All right. The second thing I want to do is figure out what I know. In this case, I know a side length over here and an angle over here. If I knew 2 side lengths and I wanted the third, I would use Pythagorean theorem. If I only have 1 side length and 1 angle, I use Sohcahtoa. Remember, when you're labeling your triangle, you label using the angle you know, and you never use 90. So across from 24 is my opposite. My hypotenuse is across from my 90, and my adjacent is my 68. You're going to write out Sohcahtoa. You're going to choose a ratio. In this case, you're going to end up using sine. Oh, sorry, no, you use a TOA because you have O and A. When you set it up, it's going to look like this. Tan, bracket 24 equals opposite x over adjacent 68. That's what you end up with when you fill in your formula. 24 goes in next to 10 because it's the angle. Opposite is unknown, we call it x. And 68 is your adjacent. This is 2 days ago. So if you're trying to find a side length and it's in here, it's in the fraction, you have to somehow get that letter by itself. How are we going to get it by itself?
Times 68.
We're going to times the 68 to the other side. Ooh, I don't want to use purple. So we times 68. We times 68. In our calculator, we go 68 times 10 of 24. I can do that one decently quickly. Or can I? Times 68. And I get 30.27. That would round to be 30 equals X. Next, this is really just a review of the last 2 lessons. Just mashing them all together. Try C and D. I'll give you about 5 minutes to do both of them. Okay, both are Sohcahtoa questions. I'll write the answer on the board so you can check your work. Okay, I'm just going to talk us through it. So for C, I try to do it in purple. There's not a lot of space to do this on the board. It kind of runs out if I want to show any sort of work. I'm looking for a side length, X. So I labeled my triangle based off of the angle I know, which was 69 degrees. Across 69 degrees, I called O. Across from the 90, I called H. The third side is A. Then I did Sohcahtoa and I did check marks. I figured out I need to use my sine ratio because O and H were checked off. I set up my sine ratio here in purple. So I had sine of 69 degrees equals opposite, which is 126, divided by hypotenuse, which is X. This is probably the hardest one and the one that people make the most mistakes on because X is on the bottom. And when X is on the bottom, what you do is you switch its spot with sine. So I multiply the X up here, then I divide the sine over. Remember, the best trick is that you can just think to yourself, it's always going to be the side length I know, and then either times or multiply, or times or divide by sine. If you always follow that order, and then remember, on the bottom, I divide, on the top, I multiply, then you'll be good. And so what I'm looking for is on the bottom, I divide. Yeah. When you put that in your calculator, you should have got 135. That's rounded, right, to the nearest whole number, because that's what they've asked for. Awesome. The red one, I had a little bit more space to work. This time we're looking for an angle, this one right here. Across from it, I call opposite. Across from 90 is hypotenuse, adjacent to the third side. I do my checklist. I figured out I need to use CA because adjacent and hypotenuse were checked off. That means cosine equals adjacent over hypotenuse. I fill that in. I don't know my angle, so I call it X. I fill my little ratio over here, like that fraction. And because I'm looking for an angle, I know it's second cos that I need to use. We only do that when we're looking for angles. Second cos, we put the fraction in, the X goes to the outside, put that in your calculator, and you should have got 56 degrees. I think that needed to be rounded as well. It was like 55 point something. Awesome. That's really it. They do a word problem below. We're not going to do that word problem. It's just similar to ones you've already done. I feel it's redundant at this point. But what I do want to go to is the next page, right here. Because this is a type of question you get, and people are always like, whoa, I don't know what this is talking about. They give you a triangle. They don't label anything as missing. Right? If you look over here, nothing's labeled as missing. There's no X. There's no anything labeled. And the question just says, solve the given triangle. Okay, solve the given triangle. People are always like, what am I looking for? I don't know what I'm looking for. When it says solve the given triangle, that means you need to have all 3 sides, all 3 angles known. In this case, that means I need to find angle C, because it's unknown. I need to find side length B to C, because it's unknown. And I still need to find side length A to B, because it's unknown. So you actually have to find all 3 things in this question. I'm just going to write those over here. So we need to find angle C. We need to find side length A to B. And we need to find side length B to C. These are the 3 things I got to figure out. Let's start with angle C, because it's actually the easiest thing we could find. To find angle C, I'm just going to start right here. Here's my work for finding angle C. I look at this. I recognize I have the other two angles, 90 degrees and 37 degrees. When you're looking for the third angle in a triangle, it's really easy. You just go 180 and you subtract the other two. Subtract 90, subtract 37. When you do that, you're going to get 53 degrees. That's the missing angle, 53 degrees. It's 52. No. That's crazy. Oh, you put 36. 37. I was like, I'm not that crazy. The missing angle, yeah, that's the easiest one, right? Just follow that pattern. Now we got to find our two missing sides. To find our two missing sides, you just pick one and go for it. All right, let's go find side length AB. You can only find one thing at a time. All right, if you want to find AB, you have to realize you know one side, one angle, so I'm going to have to use Sohcahtoa. I label my triangle based off the angle I know. I know this is 37, and this is opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. I'm using Sohcahtoa. I check things off. I check off what I know and what I want to know. I check off H because I know it. I check off A because I want to know it. One of them will have 3 checks. In our case, Ka. So cosine equals adjacent over hypotenuse is what we want to use. Cos 37 equals adjacent. In our case, we don't know the adjacent. I just call x. Divided by hypotenuse, which is 33. You got to get x by itself, so we multiply both sides by 33. It'll cancel on that side. On this side, you're left with something you just need to calculate. So putting your calculator, 33 times cos 37. I'll do 2. 33 times cos 37. And you get to the nearest whole number, 26 equals x. That means A to B equals 26. Now I do the triangle all over again, except this time I need to solve for BC, which is my opposite side. Again, you do Sohcahtoa, you write out your corners or you label your triangle, which I've done. Now that I've labeled it, I use Sohcahtoa, right? So I write out Sohcahtoa, I do a little checklist. I'm looking for O and H would be sine. So I have sine of 37 equals opposite, I don't know it, over hypotenuse, 33. Right? It's literally just the same thing. We're just doing it again on the same triangle for a different side. If I want to get x by itself, I have to multiply by 33 to the other side. They'll cancel on that side, and this side can be put in my calculator. When I put in my calculator, 33 times sine of 37. I get 20. I now have solved this entire triangle. I know every angle and I know every side length. And I've organized it nicely over here. It's only be a quick lesson. Right? It's just knowing what to look for and knowing when to use which strategy. That's all we did. Any question about that thing? There's another question where it says solve the triangle too. If you want to do it, you can. I'm going to hand out your